Is there a divide in the Democratic Party? Well, my experience in this very contentious primary shows me that yes, there is indeed a divide in the party. It actually turns out that highly educated Democrats are far more liberal and therefore more likely to support someone like Senator Sanders than the rest of the party. Now, this is all according to a Pew Research Center analysis. It says that well-educated Americans hold views that put them far to the left of those without college degrees. And it's a divide that has widened over the last 20 years. Now, before I go further into this isn't to suggest that people that are not educated as highly as some people are stupid. Nowhere am I going to say that you people are dumb because, you haven't gotten as highly educated. No, some people have different interests. Some people go into skilled trades that are still progressive, that are still Democrats. Some people, I have family members that have worked in factories their entire life. They're the working men and women. This is not to say that they're dumb or they're not liberal. It just says, in general, these are where the polling trends tend to go. So I don't want anybody to get confused. I'm not saying, oh, you're stupid. Oh, these guys are so much better because they're so much smarter. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just giving you guys the facts of what this research found. Now, let's go on to it. It says that it's not only that highly educated Democrats that have moved to the left, it's just that everyone's moved to the left. It's just that some of these lesser educated Democrats have moved to the left a little bit slower. Now, those are more the people that support Hillary Clinton. These are people that, yes, they are to the left, but they're just going much slowly, more of an incremental change. They're incrementalists. According to the study, college-educated Americans became increasingly persuaded to agree with the typically left-leaning position on a whole range of questions. And the percentage of consistently liberal college grads skyrocketed from 5% to 24% in the 2 decades. But over that same period of time, those with lower education levels also moved to the left, but by only a little bit. Of Americans who only finished high school, the percentage who hold consistently liberal beliefs only rose from 1% to 5%. So look at the difference between that shift. People with college educations went from being consistently liberal at 5% to 24%. That is a 19-point jump, all based on education. Whereas you had people who just finished high school being consistently liberal from 1% to 5%, an increase of about 4%. Those are dramatically different. Now it continues. Highly educated adults, particularly those who've attended graduate school, are far more likely than those with less education to take predominantly liberal positions across a range of political values. And these differences have increased over the past 2 decades. So look, this is a real divide. You've got people with more education being more liberal. I think it's because the more you know and the more you've learned about the issues, the more you understand progressive policies and their impact. And you realize that the impact of more progressive policies is that they work and that they make more sense when you break it down. Now, a lot of policies get very nuanced. There's a lot of information in them. So when you look at things, certain things seem counterintuitive. For example, let's take minimum wage, right? Now, minimum wage is a pretty simple concept, but when you break it down into the effects of it, well, isn't raising wages for workers, is it going to raise prices? Now that's something conservatives and even some Democrats will look to and say, well, wait a minute here. Yes, I want people to have a higher wage, but 15, that's way too high. Hillary Clinton says 12, and then we'll let the states decide what's best for them. Because we don't want to make it too high, because then that'll make prices go up. Now, will prices go up? That's where you get into the nuance. Yes, certain studies have shown that there will be slight increases, like 6 cents or something for an extra quarter at the most for a cheeseburger, okay, for a Big Mac. Now, is that an increase? Yes. Is it as much of an increase as people feared? No. So when you break that down, the cost benefits of actually raising the minimum wage and allowing people who are raising families to actually get a living wage, money that they'll put right back into the economy as soon as they get it, because poor people tend to spend more of their income, all of their income, on just the basic things for survival. That makes sense to raise that wage, even if you will have a little bit of a cost, an increase in the cost of a hamburger. When you have to break things down to their component parts, you tend to understand it more. And that's what I try to do here, right? Because I understand some of these things a little bit better. And I understand that when you break things down into smaller portions, it makes it also easier to understand. So that's what I try to do here. And that's what education does. It allows you to break things apart and to understand them. And it doesn't make you stupid if you don't understand it at first. Things are very complicated. So you have to go in and you have to kind of break them apart in order to understand things. And that's what education helps you do. Education is the great equalizer. And it helps you become more progressive because you understand things a little bit better. That's all. That's all I'm trying to say. Now, more examples. I mean, a lot of people don't understand or aren't aware of the benefits of single-payer healthcare, for example. How other countries, when you look at those, when you study those, when you learn about them, you learn how they are able to save money and still give people healthcare. All because the different component parts allow people to save money, especially when you cut out the for-profit healthcare portions. And it's, once again, you can get into some very complicated formulas and complicated policy parts of this. And it helps when you're more educated on the subject. That's something that some people aren't able to do, to understand the complexities or to have time to be able to get into the complexities of these different policies. That's why people who are more educated tend to be more progressive, tend to agree with these policies. And of course, people who are more educated are more aware of how dangerous that income inequality gap is, because they can look back and see those historical trends, see what happened back when income inequality was higher. It's just simply more education arms you to make better choices when it comes to policies. And look, when you're more progressive, when you have more education, you're also more likely to support more bold changes, things like climate change. Now, of course, almost all Democrats know that this is a problem and agree that we have to do something about it. But knowing the extent of the problem, as more highly educated and informed people do, they realize that the need for bold action is necessary. We've got to do something. We've got to do something bold, and we've got to do something now. We can't rely on, for example, fracking as a bridge fuel. Why? Because it releases more large amounts of methane, which is actually far more potent greenhouse gas than carbon is. Even though carbon lasts longer in the atmosphere than methane, methane is still far more potent in the short term. A lot of people might not know that because they haven't been able to look this up. They haven't been able to learn it. So there's the other thing. Look, the whole thing is that the more you know about a problem, the more likely it is you are to agree with detailed policies and bold actions to solve that problem, as long as they're shown to be able to work. And that's the point. Now, the study also points out that nearly half of all college-educated Democrats now hold consistently liberal beliefs, compared to just 11% with those with high school educations or less. Now, let's compare that real quick to conservatives. Now, we talk about the divide in the conservative party, in the Republican Party, right? Among conservatives. There is actually no divide based on education. Based on other things, but not on education. In general, well-educated Republicans are about as consistently conservative on the issues as other Republicans with only high school educations. That's kind of amazing. Now, that's interesting is that this isn't because, as I mentioned, Democrats were rushing to the right. I previously thought that. I thought that No, Democrats are chasing the right. Not so much. It's because highly educated Democrats are moving to the left faster than everyone else. Now, the good news is that the country is actually still moving in a more progressive direction. It's just that everybody else is moving slower than us. And they're moving more cautiously away from the right wing. Now, on the 10 major issues included in this survey, like immigration, the social safety net, etc., the study found that the public is moving slightly to the left on all of these different issues. So they essentially found that the gap in the Democratic Party by education level is driven by a, in their words, sharp leftward movement rather than a move to the political center. And see, this is why Sanders does so well with college-educated people, right? The study said a sharp leftward turn. Remember, there's context here. This is the American context. Since the 1970s and 1980s, American politics has actually shifted massively to the right of the rest of the modern world. Two important things kind of influenced that. That's the SCOTUS decisions that said that money was political speech and that corporations were people with speech rights. Now you remember, that then, right there, was when we lost our democracy and our politics really shifted over to the right. So there's our context, right? There's our context when it comes to this survey. In reality, in comparison to the rest of the industrialized world, Sanders supporters aren't just veering to the left really fast. They're actually getting back to the center. Whereas the rest of the Democratic Party is still center-right and going leftwards at a slower pace to the center. So that's very interesting to try to put in this context. Now, what Bernie Sanders and other educated liberals are trying to do is that all we're trying to do is we're trying to undo that rightward shift in our politics. We're trying to move the Overton window back to the center so that we can actually discuss rational policies that tend to work. Now, unfortunately, a lot of Democrats who have voted for Clinton are only interested in doing incremental change because they think Sanders and supporters like me are going too far, too fast. However, some of them don't see the context of how far to the right our system actually is, and don't think or that we should or that we can attain bold action to bring us back. But here's the truth of it, right? Our ideas, they're not pie in the sky. They're not too idealistic. They're actually practical and pragmatic, and they work everywhere else. And how do we know that they work? Because we've learned this, we've seen the evidence for this, and you can look at any other industrialized country, Western country, that has done this. Look at Europe, look at Scandinavia, look at the UK, look at Canada. They've done these. They have these policies. Now in America, we can not only implement these policies, but we can do what we do best. We take policies, we take things from other countries, and we look at them, and what we do is we Americanize them. We end up making them better. Why? Because we have a vast pool of talented, amazing people in America. People from all different backgrounds that can all put in their perspectives and can make the system better. That's what we do here in America. We take systems from everywhere else and we improve them. We make them better. Because that's what we do. Now, as I said, don't misunderstand me throughout this. I'm not calling anybody dumb. I'm just pointing out how more education among Democrats is it's still linked to being more progressive. It makes sense the more that you know about things, the better you are at being able to make informed decisions about policy. Policies that work. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to put forward progressive policies like universal health care and education because that's what they do. They work.